I mean, the thing is, while they're princesses, they're earning large sums of money in the Middle East. We've seen Beatrice promoting a Saudi bank recently. We just don't know what's going on. Eugenie's wedding was filled with gangsters and dodgy dictators.
There is a number at the center of one of the most explosive royal financial scandals in modern British history. £750,000. That's not a figure plucked from thin air. It appeared in sworn court documents. It was flagged by bankers. It has now been placed squarely and uncomfortably at the feet of two women who have spent their entire adult lives trying to separate themselves from their father's catastrophic reputation. Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, and now their cousin, the future King of England, Prince William, has reportedly done something that has sent shock waves through Buckingham Palace, through Kensington Palace, and all the way to the quiet corners of the House of York. He has asked questions that cannot be unasked, and Beatrice and Eugenie, according to multiple senior royal insiders, have refused to answer them. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are the daughters of Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, affectionately known to the British public as Fergie. They are the grandchildren of the late Queen Elizabeth II, and cousins to Prince William and Prince Harry. For years, both women walked a peculiar tightrope. They were royal enough to carry the prestigious HRH title. They were royal enough to appear at Ascot, at Sandringham, at Windsor. They were royal enough to attract the cameras at every high-profile event on the royal calendar, but they were not working royals. They received no money from the sovereign grant. They had no official public duties. They were, at least officially, private citizens with very prestigious surnames and extraordinary access to powerful people. Beatrice secured a role as Vice President of Strategy at Affinity with a salary reportedly between £150,000 and £200,000 per year, while Eugenie secured a position at the International Art Gallery Hauser and Wirth with a reported salary exceeding £100,000. Those sound like respectable, successful careers on paper. But now ask yourself this: how did two women with those salaries afford the lifestyle they lived for years before those salaries existed? Because here is where the numbers stop adding up. Let us go back to 2019, specifically November 2019. A Turkish millionaire named Nebahat Evliap Isbalan had entrusted her financial advisor, a man named Selman Turk, with a staggering £67 million. She believed her money was being managed. It was not. Isbalan said she was told by Turk that a payment of £750,000 was made to Prince Andrew in November 2019 for his assistance with securing a new passport for her after she fled the country. But Turk and Prince Andrew's office said the money was sent as a wedding gift for Princess Beatrice, who was due to marry Edoardo Mapelli Mazzi in 2020. Stop right there. Read that back slowly. £750,000 described as a wedding gift for a princess. According to a transcript from November 14, 2019, banker Stephen Buckland asked Turk about the sum of money going to Prince Andrew. "We just need to feel comfortable given the very unusual nature of the transaction," Buckland said. "What we're struggling to understand is why it is so large. And also, is it a gift to help with the cost of the wedding, or is it a wedding gift to the bride?" Let that question sink in. Even the bankers, trained professionals who deal with large sums of money every single day, were left scratching their heads. They needed it explained. They needed to feel comfortable. The Duke of York has since returned the £750,000 to Mrs. Isbalan, and there is no suggestion of wrongdoing by Princess Beatrice or Prince Andrew. But here's what no official statement can erase. The money was real. The transfer was real. And the reason it landed in Andrew's account, justified by invoking his own daughter's name, has never been satisfactorily explained to the public. And it gets worse because Beatrice wasn't the only sister whose name appeared in these court documents. According to the lawsuit, a payment of $980,000 deposited into Andrew's account in 2019 was described to bankers as a wedding gift for Beatrice. And an additional $38,000 deposited into Eugenie's private account the same year was described as a birthday gift. So now we have £750,000 framed around Beatrice, and a separate payment directly into Eugenie's own bank account described as a birthday present. At what point does a coincidence become a pattern? Now let us talk about the years before all of this, because the £750,000 story, as dramatic as it is, did not emerge in a vacuum. Questions have come to the fore about how Beatrice and Eugenie financed their lifestyle in their 20s, especially as Beatrice reportedly earned just £19,500 annually at the start of her career, while frequently traveling on as many as 17 holidays in a single year. Let that number sit with you. 17 holidays on a £19,500 salary. To put that in perspective, that is a salary of roughly £375 a week before tax. After tax and national insurance, she would have been taking home something loser to £1,300 a month. And yet the travel, the glamour, the appearances at exclusive events on multiple continents, all of it continued without interruption. Royal biographer Andrew Loney noted that the daughters were taken on all the trade trips at extra cost to the public purse and that they built up a very useful contacts book, contacts they have since used in their business careers, with both sisters working in roles linked to client relations. So the daughters attended the trade missions. They attended the gatherings. They sat at the tables where deals were made and hands were shaken. They built the contacts. And then, years later, they began monetizing those very same contacts in the private sector. Loney said, "We've got plenty of occasions where they've been out promoting their father's businesses abroad, particularly in the Middle East, in the Far East." He noted that knowing the Yorks, they don't do anything for free. Those are extraordinary words about two women who have long been portrayed as the innocent, hard-working daughters of a disgraced prince. Now we arrive at the moment that has sent the entire royal establishment into open conflict. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, heir to the British throne, the man who will one day be king, reportedly made a private personal appeal to his cousins. Sources say that last year, in what some around him saw as a last chance for the princesses, William and Catherine privately proposed that Beatrice and Eugenie submit their finances to an ethical forensic accountant so that an independent audit could clear them of any suspicion about how they funded their lavish lifestyles as teenagers and young women. This was not an accusation. This was not a public denunciation. This was a private lifeline. William, according to sources, was essentially saying, "Let us help you, let us put this to rest, let us protect you." William believed they potentially may have involuntarily been involved with some of their mother and father's shady business people. He wanted to protect them by offering them this ethics check to be ahead of any scandal that could come to fruition. This was an act of protection, not persecution. And Beatrice and Eugenie said no. The sisters chose to rely on the defense that they had done nothing wrong and that as private individuals with jobs, their money was their own business. Now let me ask you something directly. If someone offered to clear your name completely, if a forensic accountant could look through your finances and confirm you had done absolutely nothing wrong, would you say no? Think about that for a moment, because the answer matters enormously. Loney said they refused to do so, which doesn't send out very encouraging signs. He went further, arguing there is a case for HMRC to look at the tax affairs of the York family, suggesting their business arrangements may not have been fully transparent. A case for HMRC, the British Tax Authority. That is not the language of idle speculation. That is the language of someone who believes there are serious unresolved questions that only an official investigation can answer. Royal historian Andrew Loney raised pointed questions publicly, saying, "This raises serious questions for the two princesses. Did they receive this money, and was the source David Rowland? If so, was it because their father had pushed Rowland's business interests and therefore abused his position as trade envoy? It is time for the princesses and their father to come clean. David Rowland is a billionaire businessman with reported links to the York family, and here is why his name matters. If money moved from individuals like Rowland into the York family's finances, including potentially the princesses' accounts, through channels connected to Andrew's activities as a trade envoy, that is not simply a personal financial matter. That becomes a question of whether a senior member of the royal family used his official public position to benefit his own family financially." Loney said pointedly about the £750,000. This money was being channeled through the daughter's bank account. So one wonders how many other funds have been channeled through their bank accounts. He added that the Yorks refused to comment on it, to explain this money. A silence that has only deepened suspicion. And if the financial questions were not enough, there is one more dimension to this story that cannot be avoided: Jeffrey Epstein. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie have been swept into the maelstrom that has engulfed their parents, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Sarah Ferguson, forcing them to grapple with renewed scrutiny swirling around the British monarchy. The sisters, now 37 and 35 respectively, are named hundreds of times in the latest tranche of the so-called Epstein files recently published by the U.S. Department of Justice. Hundreds of times. Not a passing mention. Not a footnote. Hundreds of references. The emails indicate that Sarah Ferguson took her daughters, then aged 20 and 19, to see Epstein at the end of July 2009 at his Palm Beach mansion, where he was under house arrest after serving 12 months in a Florida jail for soliciting a child for prostitution. These were not naive teenagers who stumbled into a difficult situation. They were adults. They visited a convicted sex offender at his home within days of his release from prison. One particularly shocking revelation came from Epstein himself, who claimed that Fergie was the first to celebrate his release from jail, bringing her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, along with her. Royal editor Russell Myers said it is incredibly distressing for both young women to see themselves mentioned so freely by their parents to a convicted sex offender. But he also noted that questions remain both inside the palace and publicly as to whether Beatrice and Eugenie could have raised concerns both to their parents or more widely, considering how close they were brought into Epstein's world even after he was convicted of serious offenses. To be absolutely clear, there is no suggestion that either Beatrice or Eugenie committed any criminal wrongdoing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. None. But the combination of these revelations, the financial questions, the audit refusal, and now the Epstein file entries has created a toxic cloud that is proving almost impossible to escape. Allies of William felt the king had been absurdly hasty in elevating Beatrice's status in any way before it became clear what else might emerge from the vast cache of U.S. Department of Justice documents. That caution, they said, now looks prescient. And now the consequences are arriving. Not gradually, not quietly, but all at once in ways that would have been unthinkable even 18 months ago. First, Royal Ascot. According to the Mail on Sunday, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have been told they will not ride in the royal carriage procession at Royal Ascot in June. The Royal Ascot Carriage Parade is one of the set pieces of the royal year, a highly visible marker of who is in and who is out. It has traditionally showcased the York family with Andrew and his daughters very much part of the core lineup. To be excluded from that procession is therefore a key delineator of status and in effect a very public demotion. Think about the symbolism of that. For years, the cameras captured Beatrice and Eugenie riding in those gleaming carriages waving at the crowds in their extraordinary hats. That image was part of who they were as public figures. It has now been taken from them. Then there's the photograph ban. Senior members of the royal family are being quietly guided away from being seen standing next to them. The institution wants to protect itself and is therefore distancing itself from the daughters. Loney sees the Royal Ascot ban as an indication that the palace might know more than we do about the daughters and is worried about further scandal. And then there is the most cutting blow of all, the one that suggests this is not temporary, not a PR blip, but a fundamental reassessment of who these women are within the institution. Loney warned the royal sisters about what will happen to their titles when Prince William becomes king. He said that when William comes to the throne, there is a very strong chance that all these titles, apart from his own children, will be got rid of. Their HRH titles, gone. If William decides to clean house, and every indication is that he has already begun doing exactly that, Beatrice and Eugenie could find themselves stripped of the one thing that has defined their public identity for their entire lives. There is one more piece of this puzzle that cannot be overlooked because while Eugenie has largely faded from public controversy, her sister Beatrice has continued to operate in spaces that are drawing intense scrutiny. Beatrice's trips to the Middle East have been scrutinized before, going back to November 2024. There was speculation by the Daily Mail that her frequent trips were helping to bankroll Prince Andrew's stay at Royal Lodge. During one visit to Abu Dhabi, Beatrice was noticeably situated next to Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, a billionaire from a wealthy family with strong ties to London. Journalist Hadley Gamble noted there was a general feeling that Beatrice was an unofficial ambassador for the UK. Beatrice was quite literally in the inner circle at a gathering of global energy CEOs, top finance executives, and policymakers. An unofficial ambassador for the UK. Not sanctioned, not disclosed, not audited. Loney also questioned more recent associations, noting that Beatrice had been out promoting a Saudi bank, and adding that some charitable work linked to the region does seem to be laundering operations of some pretty dubious characters there. Those are strong words, and it is worth being clear. Beatrice has not been charged with anything. No investigation has confirmed any of this. But the pattern, using royal contacts built on public access to advance private financial interests, is one that royal historians, commentators, and apparently even Prince William himself has found deeply troubling. Through all of it, the court documents, the audit refusal, the Epstein files, the Ascot ban, the photograph embargo, the biographer's public demands, neither Beatrice nor Eugenie have offered a substantive detailed public explanation. No press conference. No official statement addressing the specific questions raised. No financial disclosure. No independent audit commissioned by their own team to proactively clear the air. Silence. And in a world where silence is often the loudest statement of all, their choice to stay quiet is being interpreted by many as confirmation that there is something worth hiding. Royal biographer Andrew Loney claims Beatrice and Eugenie ignored Prince William's audit request, and he is urging the York sisters to give up their titles and retreat from public life. These are not the suggestions of a tabloid columnist stirring up gossip. These are the words of a credentialed royal historian who has spent years studying this family. Loney went further, saying, "I think until they're much more open about those finances, all the members of the royal family, until we have the royal register, until we have the exemptions under FOIA removed, until we actually can see how they parcel money through royal wills, until there's much more parliamentary scrutiny, all the questions will remain." He is right. The questions will remain. And every day that Beatrice and Eugenie stay silent, those questions grow louder. William is not acting out of cruelty. He is not acting out of a personal vendetta against his cousins, though some royal commentators have suggested there is genuine personal tension there. He is acting out of something that is, in many ways, more powerful than personal feeling. He is acting out of institutional survival instinct. According to Loney's wider argument, the sisters continue to benefit from their proximity to the monarchy without being subject to the same scrutiny and restrictions now expected of working royals. William has watched the monarchy absorb blow after blow. Harry and Meghan's departure. Prince Andrew's catastrophic fall from grace. The Epstein scandal. The ongoing debates about the cost and relevance of the institution. He is, by all accounts, determined that when he takes the throne, the monarchy that stands before the public will be lean, transparent, and defensible. Beatrice and Eugenie, in his assessment, represent the opposite of that vision. They are a liability. And a £750,000 unexplained transfer, a refusal to submit to an audit, and hundreds of mentions in the Epstein files are not the building blocks of a monarchy that can survive the scrutiny of the modern world. For years, William was infuriated by what he saw as his father's ambivalent approach toward dealing with Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Now that the king has finally had his road to Damascus moment, William fears he is making the same mistake with their daughters. He will not allow that mistake to be repeated. Not on his watch. So where does this go from here? Because this story is not over, not even close. There are at least 3 threads that could unravel further in the coming months. The full cache of documents from the U.S. Department of Justice has not been fully released. As more files emerge, the possibility exists that further references to Beatrice, Eugenie, their mother, and their father will surface. Every new revelation increases the pressure on them to respond or to retreat. Andrew Loney has publicly called for the tax authority to investigate the York family's finances. While HMRC does not comment on individual cases, the fact that a credentialed historian has made this call publicly, citing specific transactions and unanswered questions, means the pressure for an official inquiry is now part of the public record. And William is not yet king. Charles is still on the throne, and Charles has so far maintained the position that the sins of Andrew and Fergie should not be visited upon their daughters. But the gap between Charles's protectiveness and William's urgency is becoming a fault line. And when William eventually accedes to the throne, the calculation will change entirely. One final piece of the financial puzzle deserves attention. The narrator of the Channel 5 documentary The Royal Rich List 2025 claimed that the true source of the sisters' wealth is through a series of reported windfalls from the firm, the first of which arose due to their parents' divorce in 1996, when the Queen gave them a £1.4 million trust fund. And Widcombe, a former Home Office minister, assumed the figure has grown if it has been properly managed, and that it likely accounts for a very large part of their wealth. And then there is this: Beatrice and Eugenie are alleged to be set for another windfall. Reports claim that on their 40th birthdays, each sister is due to receive a further substantial sum from a late royal relative's estate, potentially in the region of £5 million combined. So on one hand there are legitimate sources of wealth, the trust fund, the salaries, the inheritance. But on the other hand, there is the £750,000 that still sits in court documents inadequately explained. There is the audit that was offered and refused. There are the hundreds of Epstein file entries. There are the Middle East trips, the Saudi bank connections, the unofficial ambassador role. The legitimate wealth does not erase the questions. It simply makes the refusal to answer those questions even harder to understand. Because if your money is legitimate, clean, and documentable, why would you refuse an audit that would prove exactly that? We are living through a moment in royal history that will be written about for decades. The House of Windsor is contracting. It is slimming down. It is trying to survive in an era that has no patience for opulence without accountability, for privilege without transparency, for silence in the face of questions that deserve answers. Beatrice and Eugenie grew up inside a golden bubble. They had the title, the homes, the travel, the access. They had a father whose contacts opened every door, and a mother whose free-spirited lifestyle modeled the pursuit of pleasure above all else. They were in many ways the product of a system that rewarded proximity to power while demanding nothing in return. That system is ending. William is ending it. And the £750,000 that sat in a bank account described as a wedding gift, that circuitous, unexplained, court-documented transfer, is the figure that now haunts them. Not because it has been proven to represent wrongdoing, but because it has never been explained in a way that makes the discomfort go away. Royal historian Andrew Loney put it best when he said it is time for the princesses and their father to come clean. That word is doing enormous work in this conversation. It implies that there is something, even if only optics, even if only perception, that is currently unclear, currently murky, currently capable of being read in ways that are not flattering to two women who have spent years trying to build legitimate, respectable careers. The question is not whether Beatrice and Eugenie are legally guilty of anything. Courts have made no such finding. The question is whether they will choose transparency over silence, whether they will submit their financial history to scrutiny rather than hide behind the argument that their money is their own business, whether they understand that in the modern